in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Tuesday evening. Normally, we open the show, good little yada yada, good little opening. Whatever I've been cultivating that day, whatever I've been simmering over that afternoon, normally open up the show with it. Today, we have a special guest and a superstar, so we don't like to keep these guys waiting around too long. It is Aaron Murray, but before I bring him on, I want to go ahead and get the business knocked out of the way. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're doing all of the business up front on the front end for us tonight. Make sure you're staying active in that chat. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, run over to prizepicks.com, use promo code Brooks. Sign up today, you get a 100% deposit match. Why am I throwing all that up front? Because I plan to rip at it for about 40 minutes with our boy Murray right here. Don't want to waste any of his time possible. So make sure you're supporting before we get into it. Murray, how we doing today, brother?
Man, doing good. Just looking at my future enemy on the football field, knowing that I'm still way behind in getting my arm ready to go to compete against the man that can throw it over the mountains, over the lakes in Georgia. Hey, I'll tell you this though. I was at Creature this weekend. And this was even with a couple cold ones going through the system. I had a little competition with our boy Jake Fromm, throwing between a tire.
Okay.
1 for 1, Jake 0 for 3. Just saying, watch out. I'm feeling pretty cocky after that taking good old Fromm down after our little throwing competition.
Well, you can bring Fromster out there too. I think I got him as well. No, man, I'm excited for it. I think it's
what crap do you got to talk about Fromm? Come on, I know.
Oh, I have no crap to talk about Fromm, and I have no crap to talk about you either. I've tried to explain this a little bit. I think it's a little joke. It's ha-ha, it's hee-hee, it's funny. But I legitimately have some like theories and some hypotheses to like really prove or debunk in this little competition with you, because I really do believe, and I think you're a byproduct of this. You, of all people, you and Fromm as well, y'all are the picture of you don't have to have the biggest arm in the world to be the best at this. You have to be the best processor at this. I really do believe, Aaron, I know we're joking about this, but I really do believe the quarterback position is far more about decision-making, the feel, the leadership, the intangibles, right? Accuracy, all these things. Far more about those things than whether or not you can just throw it well. Like, I throw it really, really well, but I can't go out and play the position, but I can go throw it well with you, so we're going to see how well I can throw it versus you.
So where would you put Fromm? Because I know you've come out there and you've said that our boy Stetson has a stronger arm than me, which he may. I wouldn't push too hard against that. Where's Fromm in this arm strength world of yours?
All right, so if we're going to put like the Mahomes, the Allens,
just Georgia.
Yeah, no. I'm working to it. All right, if we're gonna say those guys can like throw 100 miles an hour off the mound, like that's their top end, right? I would put Fromm at like a serviceable 90-91 from the left side, like a crafty lefty. He's like the epitome of a crafty lefty at the quarterback position is the equivalent of that arm talent, I would say. So I put you guys in that like same range, man. Like honestly, if Fromster got to throw it 38 times a game and play from behind his whole career and have a defense giving up 30 a game, like he might have broke some records too. He didn't like that one. He didn't like that one at all, did he? Oh, man. But no, Murray, seriously, I'm glad to have you on here, man. And I'm super excited for whenever that happens. I think we circled April. I think that's kind of around the range for the people listening tonight that we're kind of planning to do that. So all jokes, all fun, and glad to have you on here tonight. The big story of today, Murray, and it's fitting that you're here being a quarterback and being a tremendous face of a quarterback as well. I think you would have absolutely slayed in the NIL era, particularly doing it over 4 years at a program like Georgia. Very similar to Jackson Dart's kind of run at Ole Miss, right? Is putting up stats and is putting up a relatively winning slate there. And my man's going to be flying around in private jets. Did you hear about this story today?
Ooh. I tell you what, the damage I could have done down Millage, going up and down, telling the co-eds that I had jet miles to take them on certain trips across the country would have been even more damaging to my health back in 2010, 13. So, oh man, I'm somewhat glad I didn't live this era because God knows with how bad I was, what I would have done. But it's amazing to see what you guys are being able to get from, Jake and I talked about the other day from Kale Carson and his Lambo, and
Mhm.
you got a Lambo too, and you're driving around 250,000 plus cars. Now these guys are flying around private jets across the country. And this is just the first one. I think all these big time quarterbacks now that has now been introduced to the world that hey, I can get a private jet miles. Sark got it as a coach. Why can't I get it as a quarterback? Well, now it's been done. I guarantee you, going forward, this is going to be one of the big deals that quarterbacks are going to be asking for. Of hey, give me 20, 30 miles a month or hours, excuse me, a month on a so you got to go around the country.
Bro, if you got 20 hours a month on a PJ, like you're doing nothing but traveling, right? You're traveling every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
20 hours a month, that's a lot. But no, you're right in the sense that like this is going to be something I think more and more kids, or at least their agents, get them in front of. I did some research on this today. It's about a $75,000 annual membership just to get 10 hours on the private jet with this Nicholas Air company who has, I don't think they're paying him. I think they're paying him in the use of their private jet. And it says he can use it for, quote, travel, training, or philanthropy.
Oh, philanthropy.
What you need the PJ for to be out here philanthropizing? You know what I mean?
Nothing good.
Go to a couple of charity golf tournaments. I mean,
That's right. I got to fly back to Cali for a charity golf tournament. That's some Aaron Murray.
Yeah.
It's the only kind of access you get when you have a former
I think this
on.
has to be one of the better deals I've seen. I mean,
Yes.
it is the Lambo suite. I still am a little bit torn about driving a Lamborghini around Athens, Georgia. Just think that could be a little bit dangerous at times. But to tell the boys on a Friday, hey, after spring game, Saturday night, hey boys, after spring game, 10 of y'all, we're jumping in the PJ. We're going to Vegas for the weekend. Like, how sweet is that? I mean, we're talking about some entourage type stuff right now going on with these quarterbacks.
And just we expect. I mean, we don't pocket watch around here. We always say give young people money, let them make young people decisions as long as they earn their cash. But man, I'd be making some bad decisions with some of this money that these kids have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Murray, I don't think you needed any help on millage based off what I've heard about your run through.
No. I did. I'm just saying I didn't. I'm just saying it could have been taken to another level is the problem.
I want it clear for the
never an
record.
issue.
I did not need help. I was not using
Not need help.
performance-enhancing drugs.
Yes, did not. But it could have been worse.
Hey, while we're talking about these guys, what do you think about Ole Miss this year, man? A lot of anticipation, a lot of hype. I think the on paper they should be a top 3 offense just off rip.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love. First off, all jokes aside about Jackson Dart and his NIL deals he's getting, I think he's a hell of a quarterback. I go back to 2 years ago watching him in the system, and I really liked it. Athletic guy, can run, can change up the arm angles. Was he perfect? No, but as his first year really playing and first year playing with Lane Kiffin, and I was a little amazed to see what Lane did in the portal in the offseason. Going out there and getting a couple guys, especially a guy with some experience from Oklahoma State. And Spencer Sanders, but I always felt like this was his job, and maybe that was a way of him kind of pushing him a little bit, whether it was off the field or on the field. And I thought he had a hell of a season last year, and now you throw in Juice Wells to go with Trey on the outside as well. It's all going to be about what the offensive line looks like. I think the weapons are going to be great. I think Dart is a hell of an athlete. His legs, his arms, decision making. Year 3 in the system, I think he's going to be perfect. It's really. And I think the defense is going to be improved with the improvement they got through the portal as well. Last year, the problem was when they faced teams that could be a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage, go back to the Alabama game, they got pushed around. So if you could protect him with those weapons on the outside, he is a legitimate Heisman contender. Ole Miss is a legitimate top 6, top 5 team in college football next year if you protect Jackson Dart.
I tried to make sense of the Spencer Sanders addition as well, because I think everybody that watched Jackson Dart his first year at Ole Miss, you saw the kind of the the seeds being planted of a guy who, if given time, would figure this out. Like, he looked electric at times in that first year as a starter. You bring Spencer Sanders in, everybody's like, what the heck is going on here? And I had the same thoughts until I watched that Georgia Tech tape of Ole Miss last year, and I thought, oh my God, Jackson Dart is a hitting dummy. He's a blocking dummy every third snap. Like, he is absolutely getting obliterated. And then you realize, oh, he misses extended portions of the games and sometimes seasons because of the way he puts himself at risk. So I think it's much more of a really, really expensive insurance policy was Spencer Sanders. And I think that's something that Dart's going to have to
sell Spencer
continue.
Sanders, though. Like, you still had to sell Spencer Sanders on
Correct.
You could be my guy. Like, why the hell would you go somewhere like that? To me, that's all on him.
Correct.
If I'm going to use my one free transfer, I am not going to a place where the starter had better stats than I did the previous season and is younger than me. So I thought it was silly, but still, like, there was a notion out there of, obviously we understand, like, this is a world nowadays where no one wants to be patient. Like, yeah, you and I maybe saw the glimpses of really good quarterback play year one under an incredible offensive mind in Lane Kiffin, but people want perfection and they want it now.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can go into the portal and get a guy that's played what Spencer Sanders started, 3 or 4 years, had a lot of success, is a dual threat guy now because we've seen more of him. No one wants to be patient. That's the problem in today's world with transfer portal and NIL and coaches moving and everything else. Is like, man, you got to have your X's and everything all ready to go right away, or they will find someone else in the portal to take your spot.
Yeah, much so a performance now type of deal in college football that's going on. So you're right there. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's how good is the offensive line going to be? You talked about being manhandled at Alabama. The key sign of that, you saw Ole Miss fans get all pissed off at Lane Kiffin for all the jet sweeps in that football game. They just couldn't run the ball between the tackles. It was like running your head against a brick wall. So that's got to certainly change. And Pete Golding, I thought last year, did a good job of transitioning from a defense that kept getting gashed every single opportunity, like one of the worst in the country in explosive drive rate. This past year, they did a good job of keeping everything in front of them and playing a style of defense that basically said, hey, we don't have good enough football players to stop you or get you off the field immediately, so we're going to hope you beat yourself on a 12-play drive. They did a really, really good job of that last year. Now they have dudes back in the mix, and I wonder if Golding's going to go back to that kind of like boomer bust style that he played at Alabama and he played that first year at Ole Miss. So that would be something I'm paying attention to very, very early on in the season out there at Ole Miss.
Where do you have them though? Like, what's your? Like I said, I truly believe. Like, I'm sipping the Kool-Aid, man. Like I am all in. I'm putting all my chips in on Ole Miss being a true contender next year. Are they Georgia? Are they Ohio State? Maybe the tier below that. Like I don't like. If they stay healthy, maybe they could put it together. But are you as high on them as a lot of people, myself, or are you kind of saying like, yeah, I still got to prove it to me a little bit?
You know, it's still February, right? But I have them currently, like if you made me do the SEC standings today, I would go Georgia 1, Texas 2, Ole Miss 3. So I think they're kind of outside of that preliminary discussion. I think that's where we all had them, right, boys?
Yeah, and I mean, like,
but still top 10 team.
Correct.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at their schedule; it's very. I mean, they should start 5-0, no problem with that. I think their first real challenge is LSU that's in November. So
is that at Death Valley? Where's that at?
Yeah, they have one of the
it's at
easiest
Death
schedules in college football, at least for SEC standards. To get there, like you put together that roster, year 3 quarterback, probably the best tandem of receivers in the SEC, along with an improved defense. I mean, they put all their chips in, man. It's we're spending all this money for this season, and I think it'd be a huge disappointment if they're not one of the 12 teams in the playoffs when it's all said and done.
Is there no Bama on that schedule?
No.
So that's a Georgia and LSU schedule?
Yeah,
Georgia,
Oklahoma.
Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma.
Those are the only tests. The other ones are Arkansas.
When do they get Oklahoma?
They get Oklahoma right out. They get LSU on October 12th, a bye, and then they get Oklahoma.
So midway through the season.
Yeah.
I was thinking you get Oklahoma earlier in the year this year, I think you're going to have a good opportunity to beat them. I think you let Jackson Arnold get comfortable in his first year starting. They're going to be harder to beat towards the end of the year. But, yeah, I got them about right there, Murray. You know, top, they should be a top 11 program, which means they should be in the college football playoff. You're 100% right there. That we haven't set the bar for them. But that's the bar this year for Ole Miss. If you don't make a college football playoff, you're not in hot water, but they're going to be pissed off in Oxford.
Okay, so I have a question. I have a question for y'all then. If you have Ole Miss at 4, who's 5? Is it Mizzou or Bama?
So I have them 3, and then it's a toss-up at 4 between all those schools. Mizzou,
God, how
Bama,
crazy
Tennessee.
is that?
What's up?
I mean, that's just crazy that we Bama has fallen that far already. I mean, it's true though. I mean, it really is true of where they're and Hunter Lacey in the chat says hot take Brady Cook is superior to Jackson Dart. That is a negative. That is a negative. I really like Brady, man. I've covered Brady a bunch the past couple of years and just seen his development. I actually had Chase Daniel on my show this earlier this afternoon on Snaps, and we talked a lot. What? That was Chase?
No, I just said MIZ, hoping that someone would say ZOU. I was trying not to interrupt you while interrupting you. Continue.
Oh, you're good. I still got that echo in my ear. I hear you like 10 times, but your boy's staying concentrated no matter what.
Locked in.
He likes Brady Cook. He's a Missouri guy, so I get it. But I think Jackson Dart is I think Jackson Dart's a legit Heisman candidate. I would not put Brady Cook necessarily in that category right now. So I would go Georgia 1, Texas 2. Ole Miss 3, Tennessee 4.
Ooh. Big Nico guy.
I'm a big Nico guy. Alabama 5, Missouri 6.
Damn.
Tennessee fans won't believe this, but I'm a big Nico guy myself. Also pro NCAA. So they're really perplexed with me. But anyways, yeah, no, I'm with you. I think they're right around that 3 or 4 range. Which let's talk about a team that's not necessarily in that range right now, which is the Florida Gators. I don't know how closely you've been following this. I know it's your job to talk national college football, so you probably are aware of this, but maybe the audience isn't. So I want to preface this with this right here. Did you know that as of today, the University of Florida Gator football program has 2 co-offensive coordinators, but they do not have a singular offensive coordinator?
Did not know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Did you know that, Murray?
Well, it's the head coach. I mean, he is the OC. I mean, what does it matter? Why do you need a true OC when your head coach is the one calling plays?
We just walked him into this one. Hey, Murray, who's the greatest college football coach to call his own plays?
Who is the greatest college football coach to call his own plays? Lane Kiffin. I don't know.
No title. Best seasons 10-2. Who's next?
Old boy at USC.
Okay. Lincoln Riley just had his worst season because his defense fell to shit. Who's next?
Next. Ryan Day.
Okay, just hired the best offensive coordinator in the sport. Just stole a coordinator that was a head coach at UCLA to defy this theory that we have that you can't call your own plays.
Are you trying to like get to the point of like you need an OC?
You can't, bro. You can't do this. You cannot do this. You cannot.
I agree with you. I'm not saying that. I've said this a million times over the past like year. You have to have an OC. You have to have one. I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying like, why have an OC if you're not going to give that up? Like if he truly thinks that I can handle it and call the plays and I only trust myself, like when my ass is on the line this year and I have to produce or I'm fired, do I trust someone else to call the plays or do I trust myself? And that's him, man, looking himself in the mirror and saying, I need to relinquish this because it's good for the program, but it's still hard for me to do that because if it doesn't work out, I'm gone. But I'm with you. You can't do it all anymore. You just can't.
You're trying to dunk on someone who's on your team, bro.
No, I mean, I don't understand why coaches continue to do this, and it's not the good ones, because
I'm with you. It's absurd. I mean, going back to Missouri, I had Eli Drinkwitz last year, week 1, and we talked a bunch about this. Of like, he's like, man, I'm not enjoying it as much. I'm not getting to know my players like I want to get to know my players. There isn't that relationship because I'm always doing a million other things. And hell, I was talking with the OCDC too about it. And like, dude, he is so much more fun to be around in meetings, in the locker room, in practice because he doesn't have a million things on his plate anymore. So I think it's just, honestly, it's healthier for you as a human being to take those responsibilities off and just focus on being a head coach. And it sucks because a lot of these guys were, OCs, DCs, and that's how they got their name and got started. And that's what they truly love doing more than maybe even being the head honcho CEO.
it's just interesting, and I know I tried to pit you against it, and we're on the same team here, so I want to continue the conversation about this because it's going to be his pitfall. Like everyone wants to point to the schedule, and the schedule is brutal. But it was the matter in which they lost football games last year, looking completely unprepared sometimes on the defensive side of the football, a la the Kentucky football game where Ray Davis rushes for 270 on them. And then there's games where they don't even, like multiple games where they're losing on special teams because they only have 9 guys on the field or they only have 10 guys on the field. It's all of these things. And then this offseason, he makes a quote-unquote concerted effort to address this, right? And most recently hired Dan Enos, the former offensive coordinator for Arkansas, to be an analyst today. But then also in-house promoted Ross Callaway, which on the surface, you promote the tight ends coach, you make him a co-offensive coordinator. Great, we have more minds working on the offense. And then you read his quotes. And Billy's quotes, to paraphrase him, were basically, he's 35 years old. If I don't give him a promotion, he's going to leave me. Yeah. And it's just like, man, like you're staring at your own timetable right now. And I get it, Aaron, where he's like, I can't relinquish these things because it's my ass on the line, but your ass is going to get cut anyways because I don't think the offensive issues, they weren't the problem last year, man. Like they played good offensive football. It was all the other stuff that went by the wayside in Florida.
I'm with you.
I do kind of wonder if there's a strategic element to this where maybe halfway through the season he goes, all right, I can't do this. I'm going to relinquish play calling duties, and that kind of buys him.
Scapegoated?
Yeah, it kind of buys him more time in a way.
I think there's enough people that are over the Billy Napier experience already before the season even starts, where I don't think they really care. It's either you win and keep your job or you're out.
I bet I don't know what that bar is right now. I bet what
Yeah.
they're trying to do right now is get DJ Lagway signed up for a 3-year guaranteed deal where you have to stick around no matter who we hire or fire, if that's possible nowadays, which I don't know if it is.
I don't know if that's legal.
But
I don't think that's
what
legal.
isn't, what isn't.
But I must say, nowadays, you can do what the hell you want to
Yeah, you
do.
can
So
do whatever
who
the
knows?
fuck you
Just
want.
I mean, it would be
take the NCAA to court.
It would be very appropriate for Florida like do something like that, and then DJ like, all right, enforce it. I'm leaving after 2. I'm transferring after this year.
But I mean, I looked at it today, and this just proves how it wasn't necessarily all on the quarterback.
Why would DJ sign that in the first place, anyways? Like DJ has all the power in the situation. I'm a 5-star.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. But I'm saying, like,
why
if you're
would
the
they do
collective, you got to try. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we have to try to keep this guy around. But and a lot of Florida fans will look at the situation and they will say, it's great that DJ's coming in and our hope lies within DJ. I looked it up today. Mertz last year in their 6 losses, this is what his stat line averaged. He averaged 263 yards passing on almost 71% completion percentage and had a 2-touchdown to 0.5 interception ratio. Like, he wasn't the problem. If I told you that was your stat line and you took 6 losses, man, that'd be tough, wouldn't it?
No, I agree. I thought he had a great year last year. I mean, listen, he's not – you're going to get what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy that obviously made some massive improvements from his time at Wisconsin, took care of the football, wasn't extremely sexy at time, but it's efficient, man. It's winning football. Like I'm sorry that for Florida fans, you don't have a guy that's going to – rush for 100 yards plus throw for 250 and it's going to throw for 40 plus touchdowns. You have a guy that plays winning football. You just don't have all the other pieces around it, and you don't have the coach that can handle everything. And I want to go to the coaching thing real quick. 2 points on this, just because I've experienced it in a couple ways. One for Georgia, and I guess I didn't truly experience it, but I learned this. Rick called the plays into 2005. He stopped calling plays. Kind of mentioned this a little bit with another coach because he couldn't continue to evolve the offense.
Mm-hmm.
It was stagnant. Like the offseason, a lot of guys are watching film, they're watching the NFL, they're watching other college. They're studying themselves how to improve. When you're a head coach and you're flying around to recruit, you're going to boosters dinners, you're going to this charity event, like you don't have time to truly diagnose your offense to make it better. So he gave the play calling up to Bobo, and Bobo kind of did what he wanted to do with it. In the NFL, second year, we are playing Detroit in London. Midway through, and this is the NFL where Andy Reid has plenty of time, but still responsible as head coach. Midway through the game, he looked at Doug Peterson and said, "You got the second half." We went out there and scored a bunch of touchdowns. From then on, the rest of the season, they split it. Andy Reid called the first half, Doug calls the second half. And then from there, it kind of slowly turned into like Matt Nagy became OC, then Eric Bieniemy became OC. Matt Nagy's back to being OC again. So, like, even Andy Reid, while it's not fully given over, it's like kind of OC by committee, but definitely not what it was like when I first got to Kansas City, where he had complete control of the offense.
Just a random question. I didn't prepare for it. Do you have a moment or a story around Andy Reid during your time there where you're like, God dang, this dude's wicked football smart?
Every day, golly. I mean, every day he would come in with just napkins and pieces of paper of just ideas of plays and concepts where he would just – I mean, we had a really impressive room. I mean, it was Alex Smith, really smart, really, really smart guy. Chase Daniel, who I totally forgot, like, until we had him on the show. They 14 years in the NFL, 14 years. Matt Nagy, who, you know, was a head coach too. Doug Peterson, my boy Tyler Bray, and then Andy Reid. Like, there was a lot of offensive firepower mindset in that room. And every day, man, we'd get like stories from back in the Packers to stories in Philadelphia. It's like we would do our meeting post practice till about 5:30, and then from 5:30 to 6, we would have story time where he would give us some sort of story from his past, which was really cool. But no, every day there was always just new ideas that he's like, man, I just woke up last night at 3:00 and just jotted this down. What do you think about it? You're just like, what the fuck? This dude just
Christian's got a
stop.
question, and
So
I have a theory it's napkin related.
So, Murray, it sounds like what you're saying is that Aaron Murray walks so Patrick Mahomes could run.
No, definitely not. more of an Alex Smith, got things going, and then Patrick kind of learned from Alex and took it and, turned into maybe the greatest quarterback of all time.
Bro, how did Chase Daniels last a damn baker's dozen and 3.5? I mean, what's going on there?
My problem is I got stuck backing up Chase for 3 years. Like, I got stuck behind the greatest backup quarterback in America. That's what happened to me. Like, I was third string to Chase for 3 years, and I couldn't crack being – and Chase was fun. I mean, Chase did it right, man. Chase was so smart. He would wake up – because I lived with Chase a little bit when we were in Philly. Chase would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, be the first one in the facility by like 5:20, 5:30. He would watch all, like, everyday different blitz pickup stuff. And then when Alex would show up to the facility at like 6:45, Chase was there. It's like, all right, I already met with the offensive line coach. I've already watched the tape.
Like,
this is the plan. Here you go. Like, he was an assistant. He was literally the assistant. He had everything ready to go. Then Hillary, his wife, was great. Hillary would become, best friends with Alex's wife. And like, it was freaking phenomenal. He got to the point where Alex needed Chase. Carson Wentz, when I was in Philly with them, Carson needed Chase, and Chase was a genius, man. He did all the work, and he was never a threat. Like, Chase never wanted to be like a threat. Like, I'm trying to take your job. I'm here to make you better. So that when his contract was up, the starter would be like, hey, man, I need Chase because he does the blitz pickups. He does this. He does that. He's my freaking Robin, and I'm Batman. And he stayed around for 14 damn years.
Y'all got to bring Chase Daniel in to handle all my bitch work.
I was about to say, how nice would it be if you could just have us sit in the studio 4 hours before you started your day, and I'd be like, all right, we done watched the film. This is everything you need to know here. Here's all the show notes. We already wrote your notes for you.
You just described the inverse of our actual show meetings.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, all right, boys, here's what we're doing today.
Is the film guy paying you guys $45 million over 14 years?
No.
Not yet, no.
Not at all. Maybe one day.
Maybe.
If I start wearing pants.
Got to wear the pants.
Murray, you got pants on?
I do have pants on. I do.
He does
Hopefully not in about 20 minutes.
He doesn't watch the show enough
on,
to get that one. He doesn't watch the show enough to get that one. All right, let's talk about these NFL Combine winners and losers, or at least taking stabs at who's going to be winners at the Combine. Every year, Murray, there's some guy that goes up there and just dominates, walks away, makes himself $20 million. So your opportunity today is kind of to make a stance on somebody at the Combine this week. We will be in attendance, Kirby and I, on who's going to go out there and make them several $1 million. We'll start with you, Murray, then we'll go around the room. Who's a guy that you think is going to have a good week?
I think a guy that's going to have a great week and is going to make him some nice change, Jane Daniels. I think when he gets on there and runs a 40 and runs like a high 4.4, I already think he's the number 2 quarterback in this draft. I would take him above Drake. I know there's a conversation between him and Drake, and I think Drake will have some good numbers too because he's athletic. But when Jaden goes out there and he's not going to throw, but if he does run and runs like I think he can run, and people watch the tape and they see him on pro day and they see the accuracy, they see the arm strength, they see that he's a little thin but 6'4", and probably he's going to put some muscle on during these last next few months heading up into the draft. But that speed, man, that speed and that number is going to excite a lot of people when it comes to the draft. I think this is an opportunity for him to really cement, I'm the number 2 quarterback in the NFL draft.
Murray, your opinion. Does Jaden Daniels get hit hard?
Does he get hard? Yeah, it's his own damn fault, but he does get hit hard.
Okay. So, all right. So you're a ball watcher and a certified ball knower. Got to send him a certificate. Because I've been hearing people already on the draft circuit do the, he's got great spatial awareness a la Lamar Jackson. He doesn't get hit. I'm like, dude, y'all are watching something else. I watch Shattered Glass.
He may be the worst. He may be the worst I've ever seen. He runs so upright.
Yep.
He literally looks like a deer. And then the problem is too, he stops at impact.
Yep.
Like he just like kind of like
or get down.
I feel like he thinks it's like 2-hand touch where like they're just gonna like they tap you like in practice, like it's practice where the defense will just like kind of thud you up. It's like, dude, they're trying to kill your ass. Like you gotta get down, you gotta lower the shoulder, you gotta get out of bounds. He literally stops on impact, and then the best was one game he got jacked up about 5 yards backwards. So yeah, he's got to take care of himself a little bit better.
He looks like a damn Looney Tunes character when he gets hit.
Yeah, I'm with that one. Is he going to run? You got good authority. He's going to run.
T-Bob and I were talking about this yesterday. Actually, why would you not run? Unless you want to. The only time you don't run is
avoid
if you want to put on a.
Let's be honest.
No, because I think he threw 50 touchdowns last year. I don't think he's not like Lamar. I think everyone knows he's a far superior thrower than like Lamar coming out. I think the only way you don't run. Trying to put on a bunch of weight to have that as your number, kind of like what Bryce did last year. You put on weight for the combine, you don't run, you then lose the weight before pro day, you don't retest your weight before pro day, and then you run there. But like if you're at a good weight, why not get 2 dips at it? Run at the combine. If you don't like the number, you run again at pro day, hoping that it's better. But I'm not going to just chance it on just one day if I don't have to. Because you got to think, like, all those scouts want to take your best number. So if you go run a 4.55 at the combine, then turn around and go to your pro day and run a 4.47, in the board, in their meetings, it's going to say Jane Daniels 4.47. It ain't going to say 4.55.
Murray, what were you, a 4.88 guy?
No, if I did run, probably like a 4.77.
That's fair. I'll give you that.
I'm under 4.8.
Solid.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll go with it. I'll give you 4.77.
You gonna challenge him to the 40 next?
Hell no. He can have that one. Never went sub 5 in college, but I was north of 300 pounds my entire career.
You don't need to, dude. You're a lineman.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, I got one for you. I think Chop Robinson, kid out of Penn State, the edge rusher, is going to have a great weekend. If you just watch just general clips of him, go watch just the highlight tape. You'll see an extremely explosive athlete at 6'3", 255 pounds. There are some reports that he could go sub 4.5 this weekend in the 40. So, gonna be a guy. What'd you have, Aaron?
No, I agree with that one. I like him a lot.
What do you got for me?
I went with a different quarterback. I didn't go Jaden Daniels. I went with Spencer Rattler, especially because the quarterbacks continue to say that they're not going to throw at the combine. And so with that, I think Spencer's just going to be the spotlight of the show for the quarterbacks over the weekend. And I'll tell you exactly how I think it's going to go. He's going to go throw at the combine. He's going to go light the world on fire. And that's going to propel all these people to go, oh, maybe we need to go dig into the Spencer Rattler film a little bit. And you're going to start seeing Twitter clips of Spencer Rattler throwing footballs at South Carolina. And everybody's going, man, he sure didn't play as bad as South Carolina's record showed this last. I mean, it didn't. I mean, he put up great numbers.
First 6 weeks, I thought he was playing some of the best football in college.
He was. And so I think that he's going to be talk of the town when it comes to quarterbacks this weekend.
I also went with a quarterback who could be a big winner. I think it's J.J. McCarthy. The public consensus on him is kind of that he never threw in college. He never really showed his skill or showcased his skill. So I think that he can go out in the combine and do a couple of Zach Wilson type throws and really win a lot of money here. I mean, people are tabbing him. Some are tabbing him as a first-round pick, which, I mean, I don't think we're buying into that. But
I mean, he was a 5-star prospect coming out of IMG for several reasons, most of which were athletic traits. I mean, he's 6'4", 225 pounds, and he's got one of those arms.
Yeah.
He definitely has one of those arms.
Well,
What's up, Murray?
And I'm going to probably dive into this as closer to the draft. But, man, like I feel like the narrative has been built for quite some time that, like, this is some incredible quarterback class. We're going to have all these guys drafted in the first round. And we may. And I think part of that is because you look at the NFL, and it's a really – and it always is, but it's especially this year, a really quarterback-needy league. I mean, the more you dive into it, it's like, is this draft class as good as we kind of made it out to be? Or is it just, like I said, the narrative was already set and, you know, the NFL is so needed that position that we're just going to kind of, you know, deem that this class is just incredible. We're like, I love Caleb. I'm a big fan of Caleb. You know, I really like Jaden. I think Drake is talented, but I think there's a lot of question marks there. I think JJ has a lot of question marks. I think he's talented, but we just haven't seen enough of it. I think Bo Nix is a lot of questions around him and how does his game translate to the next level. Michael Penix, can he stay healthy? Like, I don't know. And maybe I've covered these guys too much over the past multiple seasons, too close to it. I don't know what it is. But, like, the more I keep hearing, like, how amazing this class is of quarterbacks, the more I kind of sit back and say, like, I don't know, man. Like I said, like, I think Caleb's for sure, you know, going to be a top NFL guy. The rest of them, I think, is a coin flip. I don't feel as confident as years past with other quarterback groups.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of that. There's been quarterback classes like this in years past where there's like one or two guys that you know for a fact, and then there's like three or four guys, or at least you think you know for a fact they're going to work out. And there's like three or four guys that have enough traits and enough talents that you have to take a stab at. What was that Josh Rosen class where there was like 5 or 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round?
That was 2018, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But all of those kids coming out of college, will you look that class up for me? All those kids coming out of college were extremely talented. But I feel like there was one or two at the top that we kind of guaranteed or at least felt like we knew were going to be really, really great. It doesn't strike me as like a Blaine Gabbert class. Or what was Buddy out of UCF that was drafted by the Jags?
Tell me which guy you feel really good that you can say in 4 years is an All-Pro besides Caleb.
I don't
for sure All-Pro. Nobody.
I don't even know if Caleb. Yeah, I don't know if Caleb's an All-Pro.
Yeah.
That 2018 class was Baker, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and then Josh Rosen.
So Allen's the only really good one out of that.
Pro Bowler. No, maybe not All-Pro. Give me a Pro Bowler. Like, who can you say is like a legit Pro Bowler?
I mean, Caleb Williams is probably the best answer, but I still wouldn't like feel confident in saying that.
I don't feel confident saying any of them but Caleb. But, I mean, a lot of it is situation. Where do you end up? What's the offense look like? I mean, obviously he's going to be in a most likely not a great situation being the first pick in the draft. But I don't know, man. I'm not sold. I hope I'm wrong. But, like, I don't feel really good that you have a bunch of elite top-tier guy or potential top-tier NFL guys.
Why are we so bad at evaluating this position, Murray? You played it for a long time. You watch this sport and you love it. Why are we so bad at evaluating this position?
Offenses are different. I mean, Bo Nix, Chase brought up a good point earlier today. Like 30% of his completions were behind the line of scrimmage this past year. Like that is not translate to the NFL. And a lot of times these guys, not all of them, but a lot of the times these guys are on better football teams. J.J. McCarthy was on the best team in America. Like, you're going against inferior talent where you go in the NFL. Jaden Daniels had the best receiving core in America. I think he had the best offensive line in America. You're not going to get that in the NFL. You're not going to get receivers that on 9 of your 12 games can make a DB spin around like a top. Or an offensive line give you 5 seconds to throw the football. Every day, in every practice, in every game, it is truly equal. So you can't take advantage of just being on a better team with bigger, faster, stronger guys, and that's why it's so hard to, between the offenses and what the offenses look like compared to the NFL, the progressions that these quarterbacks have to get through, and then not being on a team with a bunch of 4- and 5-star guys going to get a bunch of 3-star guys makes a world of difference when they move on to the next level.
I think we saw a very obvious example of this in this year's class with the guy we've already talked about. Drake May didn't even have to lose a whole team. He lost Josh Downs, and it was like, all right, this is a totally different quarterback and a totally different offense now because that one NFL player has now gone to the league, and now we are without him. Oh, and Tez Walker, we're not going to get him until week 7. So, like, what does our offense look like? And it looked pretty stagnant at times this year. So I think you make a very, very strong point there. Do you have another one for us, a combine winner?
Another combine winner.
We'll let you think. You got one?
Yeah, I was gonna go Cooper DeJean.
Ooh,
I think he could.
well,
make
Iowa
a
prospect.
White boy.
Hey,
yeah.
little inside note here. Coming back from an injury. Okay, so he's rehabbing, but they believe he's going to be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
I got on good authority that he might run like in the 4.3 range.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I just can't draft a white corner in the first
thing
round.
Deion's
Boys. I'm
not
gonna be
there.
honest.
And here's the other thing.
He's not going to be at the combine. It doesn't sound like.
Cooper DeJean,
not?
it's going to be a pro day. It's going to be a pro day thing, and he's going to run super fast.
Doesn't look like he'll be at the combine. Is what it because I thought I saw something the other day where it said he will not be there.
I was looking forward to
recovering
that,
from
too.
an injury, like I said. But
I'll
there's
give you one.
already
Here you
talks about him labeling himself as a safety or whatever. Go in there and tell him you're a corner. But say I'm him.
Hell yeah.
I am the next White Hope at the corner position.
It's dangerous, boys. That's dangerous. I'll say Keon Coleman, receiver, Florida State.
Yeah.
Love his size. Love. And it's a deep receiver class, man. I really like the receiving crew in this year's draft. I think you have a bunch of really talented guys. And man, if you can get Keon Coleman, like, somewhere in the second round, like, that's a big dude, man, that can make some big plays.
Love that take. Big dude makes a lot of plays. I'm going to go Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson. Going to measure in Murray about 6'2", 205, and I think he's going to run like 4.38. He's a big, long, talented football player out of Westlake High School, right down the road. So going to go Nate Wiggins. I don't know if it's going to be a resounding week all involved, because there's a lot of other things that go on. It's not just the Underwear Olympics. But in terms of the Underwear Olympics, Nate Wiggins going to walk away with a gold medal.
Yeah,
for sure.
This is one I'm excited about because it's kind of I don't know if I'd call it a stab in the dark, but it's definitely a little bit out there. Easton Gibbs, a linebacker out of Wyoming, was a 2-star recruit coming out of high school, and I solely picked him because he measures in at about like 6'3", 230. That's what he's listed at. I don't think he has long hair.
Dang,
actually.
I'm out.
But he has a background in high school where he was the kick returner, he was the quarterback, and he played on defense. He had over 2,300 yards of offense and 33 total touchdowns. I just do it all around athlete. So I think that there's a chance that he just goes out there and balls out.
Shout out to the Codas.
Where do you play in high school?
I have no idea.
Somewhere on the prairie.
Yeah, because like a lot of those Midwest teams do like 7-on-7 football.
Yeah. Van Der Esch was that way. I remember when they were talking about him during the NFL draft. Like he played 7-on-7 football, and here's the highlights.
All right, I got two more. Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is going to have an exceptional week this week in Indy, up in Indy. Is a multi-sport athlete coming out of high school as well. Was a tremendous hooper, like a real like 2-guard, 3-guard in high school, straight yammer. He's going to go north of 40 inches on the vertical, I would imagine, and he might go sub 4.5 as well. It seems like every class, the top-end edge rushers that are sub 245-ish, they're all running sub 4.5s. Like, they're moving nowadays.
Yeah. Going with Murray on FSU receivers, I think Johnny Wilson is a fast 40 time and a couple of, like, wild catches away from people being like, oh, my God, this is a second-round pick.
Yeah.
So
and then they turn on the tape and they see all the damn catches he dropped last year.
Yeah, hey.
They got hands like feet. That's
as long as it's contested, he's fine.
That is Murray, have you ever played with a guy like this that can't catch a cold if he's out in the open all by himself, takes it off the face mask? But if he's just draped and it's the hardest catch ever, it's like nab. Do you ever play with anybody like that?
I didn't, but I mean, like, the worst is like when you have a guy wide open and you throw it like a nice softball and they drop it, and then like the same thing, like they turn around and make some acrobatic catch. You're just like, wow. He's like that, but listen, you got to make the routine plays because the last thing you want to do is put that guy in practice and him start dropping some slants and OTAs because he's a little bit nervous being in an NFL camp. Not a good look if you're a top 2-round guy. So I think he may drop a little bit.
Got any more?
Yeah, I got one more. This one's more so a sleeper in the sense that, like, most people are saying there's a potential that he goes undrafted. So I think he could do a lot for his draft stock. It's Jalen Carlisle, I think, out of Missouri. I don't know how to pronounce it, but, yeah, Jalen Carlisle. He's 6'3", 220, big dude, and he has a history of running track in high school. He's a safety.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's massive. He's
Holy
freaking
shit.
huge.
He's
But
a linebacker. He doesn't
yeah,
know
that's
it.
what I instantly thought of when I looked at it. But, yeah, he has a history of running track in high school, run the 4x100.
What
So,
did you check some mile splits on him?
I couldn't find any times or anything like that, but I was just like, you know what, track background, just massive frame. Let's take a shot at it.
What'd you have there, Murray?
I'm interested to see, just sticking on the Florida State theme here, Jaheim Bell.
Yeah.
Kind of what numbers he puts up. You know, we know the NFL is, you know, loving athletic tight ends. He's a good size, 6'3", 240, athletic, can move him around a little bit. So, you know, if he can go in there and really knock out of the park some of these meetings, knock out the mental side of the game, and then go put some stupid numbers out there too. He's an interesting one that could be a pretty good steal middle of the draft.
That's the shortest looking 6'3" I've ever seen. He's
like my boy Orson Charles.
Yeah, it's a good comp right there.
It's a good comp. Really good comp.
I met Orson at a bar one night in Athens. I think it was at a Players Lounge event. And I asked him, I said, hey, Orson, do you think you walked so Brock Bowers could run? And he looked at me like he was very confused as to what I was saying. And I said, hey, man, not a gargantuan human, 6'3", 230 pounds, elite athlete, kind of a move tight end, like had 700 yards. You were a great athlete. He's a great athlete. I mean, y'all are kind of similar. He was not having it, Aaron.
Hey, what do you think Brock measures in that, 6'3"?
Yeah, 6'3" and 3/4, 232, and he'll run 4.49. That's what I think. And he'll jump 41 inches.
Probably.
Good God.
And look like a scientist.
Yeah, and look like he's selling you, boater's insurance. I got another one. Troy Fontenot out of Washington, the left tackle, number 55. Elite specimen of an athlete. He is Aaron Murray. He is the all-time SEC leading passer in the SEC. That's repetitive. He's the all-time leading passer in the great conference of the SEC, and he's also terrified of a throwing competition with yours truly, so much so he's training for the next 2 months.
We got 2 months. 2 months.
2 months.
2 months to get together. 2 months. I will be ready.
Hey, I will open invitation, okay? Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm sure the kids would love it. If you want to come throw some, let me know. We'll get you out there, okay? Let's let him go.
Doing
Get him out
band
of
work
here.
in the studio. Holy shit.
Dak hip thrust too to really loosen up the lower half.
He's out here doing the Dak Prescotts.
Yeah, on the wife here in about 10 minutes. So let's go.
Jesus, working blue, Murray. All right, man. Whoa. Hey, I appreciate you for being here, brother. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
See you, boys.
We'll talk about this McNutt story without Aaron Murray. Hey, that boy Aaron Murray, give him 3. Love having that guy on, man. It's a good time. I'll always say it. If you would have told 17-year-old Brooks Austin, like, hey, dude, you're going to have a podcast, I'd have been like, cool. That sounds awesome. And every once in a while, Aaron Murray's going to come kick it with you. I'd be like, damn, bro, I made the league? That's wild. That's crazy, bro. We made the league? Nah, you just live in your mom's basement and you talk football. Pretty good living.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
I thought it was your wife's basement.
It's somebody's basement. That's
Keep
not mine.
Keep changing ownership.
Yeah, I people are confused, definitely, myself included. I told you guys this. We obviously got into it with the Tennessee fan base recently, or at least I did. My social media accounts did. And my man was I had Tennessee fans very, very confused. The Tennessee fans that are just new to me still thinking I'm rather rotund, still hit me with the fat jokes. The Tennessee fans that have known me for about 18 months, 2 years, they think I'm on Ozempic.
It is a trend right now.
Yeah. So I must be losing some weight. That's good news. I'm still fat. So there's some weight to lose. So that's even better news. Still got some way to go. But it was like a compliment and you're not there yet, buddy. You know, one of those things from the Tennessee fan base. Hey, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and review. And we have one more national story before we get into our local hour, and it is Trey McNutt. Do you know who Trey McNutt is?
Sounds like a government senator.
Sounds like a breakfast cereal character.
Oh, I like that one. Trey McNutt. Trey McNutt is the #1 player in the state of Ohio. Trey McNutt is also a consensus top 40 player in high school football in the 2025 class. And Trey McNutt is currently being suspended a singular high school football game of his senior year for every 7-on-7 tournament that he proactively plays in. He's already played in one back in January for the Houston Fast Houston 7-on-7 team in the big battle tournament that was in South Florida, down there in Miami. The Ohio State High School Association and Federation and Coaches Association has suspended McNutt for that first game of his high school season, and he has stated that he is going to continue to play 7-on-7 the rest of the spring, past this deadline, on into the summer, and basically going to have a standoff with the Ohio State Athletic Commission. And for what it's worth, I think this rule's dumb as shit. If you've read any of these Ohio State High School Athletic Association rules.
State of Ohio.
State of Ohio. Yeah. Their rules basically stipulate, they stipulate from August until May, you are not allowed to have any type or play any type of competitive environment or competitive game around the game of football from August until May. So it basically cuts out all offseason. And during the season, you're not allowed to do anything that isn't involved directly with your high school football team.
So does it have to be sanctioned, or is it like you can't play football with your buddies in the backyard?
I think it's sanctioned, but maybe you can't do the buddies in the backyard thing either, as long as there's, if it's games of 7, we got too big, and now y'all are suspended for a game. I don't know. But I would imagine it's sanctioned events.
So how do they know that you went and played?
With him, I'm sure it was reports. He's a 5-star, a borderline 5-star. They were doing interviews with him, took pictures of him down there at the 7-on-7 event. And, oh, by the way, he's a guy from Ohio playing on a Houston, 7-on-7 team. And I told you guys this before the show, and this doesn't directly relate to McNutt, so I don't want to talk about him. But I want to talk about the 7-on-7 circuit as a whole. I don't know if y'all know this, but somehow, some way, there's big money in this industry, like real big money, and a lot of cash as well. I have my own theories about it, but whatever. But since I would say about 2 years ago, since there was this number one player in the state of Georgia that ended up going to one school and then transferred to another, and he's draft eligible after this year, and maybe he's on the verge of winning a Heisman if his team wins more than 5 games. We all follow it? Okay, that guy, since that guy was around here playing 7-on-7, I can't tell you how many kids I hear about that are making real money playing 7-on-7 in the spring. So it's no longer just an exposure opportunity. I mean, no offense, but Trey McNutt don't need no more exposure. Trey McNutt, like I told you, consensus top 40 player. He's borderline 5-star. He's got all the offers in the world. He has no more to gain on the 7-on-7 circuit that is there for him. He's already made it, right? With regards to going to the next level or having exposure or being highly ranked, it's just not there. However, I would imagine there's some opportunities for him. Whether it be, hey, you're 17 years old, wouldn't it be awesome to travel down to Miami and play some football with your buddies? Hell yeah. Hey, by the way, expenses might be covered. Don't worry about a plane ticket. What? Oh my God, yeah, I'm there. Like, I can't tell you how many kids here in the state of Georgia don't even play 7-on-7 here anymore. Jaden Perlotti does not play 7-on-7 here in Georgia anymore. He plays for a team called California Power. You know who else does? Ethan Barber. Ethan Barber doesn't play 7-on-7 here in the state of Georgia. You know where he plays? For the California Power. Okay? KJ Bolden grew up playing for Hustle Inc. Last summer, wasn't playing a lot of tournaments for Hustle Inc. You know where he was playing? He was out in Vegas one weekend. He was out in Texas one weekend. He was out in Florida. There's opportunities to be had out here, and the Ohio State Athletic Association is just like, nah, you ain't doing shit. You're going to sit at home and lift weights with your team.
So then let me ask this. From the standpoint of the organizations, what's the benefit of theoretically paying these high-profile athletes to come and be on your team? Like, where are you making money in that? Where are you benefiting?
Buddy, I have no idea. The only one is a lot. I'm not going to say shady, but it's a lot of weird shit going on in the 7-on-7 circuits, right? Like, I'm not going to, again, not naming any names. Go out to battle this year with us. Go out to the OT7 finals and see how these kids show up to these events. See what kind of buses they pull up in. See what kind of jets and planes they fly in on. See what kind of merch that they're walking out of it just reeks of money. There's money everywhere. A lot of these teams are owned by real estate tycoons. A lot of these teams are ran by people and investment firms that simply need a tax write-off. if I'm being honest with you. The big ones.
Sketchy.
And a free 7-on-7 tournament or a 7-on-7 operation like this can be, I would imagine, classified as a taxable deduction.
My question about this is I wonder if it's just football. Like, I wonder if you play basketball in the state of Ohio, like, you can't play AAU basketball.
It's not. It's just football.
Huh.
Just football is like this. That's McNutt's entire thing. His entire thing is, y'all don't do this to basketball players. Y'all don't do this to baseball players. Y'all don't do this to tennis players. Why are y'all doing it to me? I'm not going to stand for it. In fact, I'm going to fight against it. At 17 years old, he has decided we're going to die on this hill. I'm either going to win this for everybody else, or I'm just not going to play my senior year. Apparently, it has very little to – this is all Steve Whitflong reporting, by the way. So great job by him over there at 24/7 Sports. But in their article, they mentioned basically like this is either going to happen or like, we're not backing off, basically. Like we're going down to the wire with this one. So
good for him. Way to make a stand.
Absolutely. Hey, we have a whole nother scheduled hour. Don't know if we're going to reach it. Coming up right now. Make sure you stick around.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
All expenses paid. Just get a fat wad of cash at the end of the weekend, and all you did was coach some 7-on-7. Not bad. Yeah, so like when I pull up and I'm like, damn, like, bro, what is this coach doing here? This is a real football coach. This ain't like, not saying all 7-on-7 coaches aren't. When you pull up to a 7-on-7 event and you see like a former SEC staffer coaching a 7-on-7 team, you're like, what the are you doing here, dude?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you won't believe how much Buddy paid me to come out here this weekend. And you're like, oh, makes sense. Welcome into our local hour. We got a loaded show for you guys here on this one. We're going to rank the hires. Obviously, there were 4 offseason hires. We talked a little bit about it last night. We're going to put it to the ranks today. The spring dates for Georgia's G-Day and practice dates are set. We're going to talk about that tonight, as well as who has the most to gain this spring. And we have a new, and I don't even know if he's new. I would say he's about 14 months running strong. I think we have a solid suggestion for best athlete at the University of Georgia right now. And I don't like doing the it's not even close discussion, but I don't think it's even close. This one particular athlete is absolutely smoking shit. And then we are going to talk about a phenomenon that's going on right about now with regards to the NFL ranks, like this one right here. Quote, I know where I live now is a big Georgia contingency. I've got to get my Bulldog hats and support, end quote. Raheem Morris, head football coach. Your Atlanta Falcons, Jonathan Williams, standing in Indy. Not only telling everybody that his quarterback play was shit last year, but also telling everybody that he better put on that Georgia G hat. What you think about that?
I love that. One of the biggest things I love about Alex Anthopoulos with the Atlanta Braves is that he was doing an interview with 680 The Fan the other day, and he wanted to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. He's like,
bark?
Did not bark. Didn't talk about Kirby Smart or the Bulldogs, but he talks about the Atlanta Falcons. Like, that's what he wanted to talk about. Said he loves watching the Falcons, that he wants to be a fan of the area that he is in. So I like that Raheem Morris is coming in wanting to be a fan of where he is at and building up those I'm sure Georgia fans love him mentioning that.
I was about to say, I don't do we crapped all on the Buford conspiracy, right? Everyone's got the Buford conspiracy theory going on with Georgia. Now, there is an Atlanta Falcons conspiracy theory, and this one holds true. And when you talk to diehard Georgia fans, they will tell you the reason they don't like the Falcons is because of this right here.
Yep.
I'm looking at you, Jamie Goodman, if you're watching tonight. All right? Listen to this. 2022, they drafted Schaefer and Fitzpatrick in the 6th round. After that, you got to go all the way back to 2011 when they drafted Akeem Dent in round 3. And then they drafted Thomas Brown back in 2008 in round 6. They drafted a guy by the name of Martrez Milner in round 4 of 2007. And then obviously drafted DJ Shockley back in 2006. They don't do this often, right? That's 6 draft picks in the last 19 drafts. Just for reference, I looked at this today. Obviously, everybody knows about the Eagles. They've drafted 5 Georgia Bulldogs in the last 2 years. Guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers have drafted 3 in the last 2 years alone. The Green Bay Packers have drafted 3 Georgia Bulldogs in the last 3 years. The Los Angeles Rams have drafted 3 Georgia Bulldogs in the last 2 years. I'm just going to throw it out here. What do those 4 football organizations have in common?
They win.
They win. They win a lot of football games, like Super Bowls even, like lots of them. And I understand, like, from 2006 to 2018, I could understand why you're not drafting Georgia Bulldogs. I get it. I understand. I probably would have avoided some Mark Richtems too, okay? But what's going on right now, right down the road, is so obvious and so much of a higher quality of product than 95% of college football right now. And you're almost avoiding it like the plague at points. And even when you are, it's like you're drinking cough syrup medicine in the 6th round, just drafting Justin Schaefer to keep people off your back.
Well, and that was my whole thing, too, is when they did draft Justin Schaefer, it was like, great, you got an interior offensive lineman, but Jamar Sawyer was still on the board. That seemed like the better offensive lineman
All he
fit
did was
because
start for the last 2 years in the NFL.
I mean, you needed
a left tackle, by the way,
and you needed a swing offensive lineman. Really, like you needed a guy that could play multiple positions, and you went the route with Schaefer, and I think he was off the team in 2 years. They released him, so it's just been questionable even when they go the route. Now Fitzpatrick, he still remains on the practice squad, and he's remained on the roster and whatnot. But
and I've remained on the block list.
Oh, you're blocked by him too.
Yeah, I'm blocked by Fitzy. I don't know what happened there. I think I referred to him as the classic tight end that needs to run his face against the wall, which Georgia needed, which is what he was. The 1 year he really, really played at Georgia, it was like, hey, go hit the shit out of that defensive end. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of it. I don't think he liked that.
seems to be working out for him.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's making a career out of it.
Got to make that 3.5 plus a 4th camp though. We got to get that retirement, baby.
Yeah, but
maybe get that pension.
Maybe Raheem Morris is going to start dipping into that pot a little bit.
Maybe. I understand it. I understand it from back in the day.
Yeah.
But right now, it don't make no sense.
It makes zero sense.
Right now, you should be taking stabs at all these guys.
Absolutely.
Or at least investigate them. I don't even feel like they do a good enough job of doing that.
Yeah, it is weird how little attention Georgia players get from the Falcons organization.
You don't even hear rumblings.
No.
Hey, but they signed Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
Like there was some rumblings last year. It was like, hey, if Jalen Carter's still available, do we take him here? And they obviously went with Bijan. So I think it's interesting just to see how much – it's almost like they do avoid Georgia players.
I know – how would you think – do you think Kirby talks to everybody in the league, or does he only call the people who calls him, or how do you think the process goes? I'm asking.
Sure seems like that. He doesn't talk to everybody. It kind of feels like it's just a collect few of that he trusts.
It's the winners.
Yeah.
It's the winners. That's who they talk to. That's who they give the dirty deets to, right? And now if they're propositioned, if they're probed by any other team, they do. But in terms of a constant open door policy, a constant line of communication policy, I wouldn't say it's more than like half the league. And it's your perennial organizations that have always won. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Over decades long of professional football. Like the Eagles of the world, the Steelers of the world, the Green Bay Packers of the world. All right. And Los Angeles under McVay has certainly moved into this realm. And, oh, by the way, every time McVay gets a chance, an opportunity, he comes in and tries to hire either an analyst or a Georgia guy or former Georgia guy. So
yes, he does.
There's some obvious ties there as well. Should we get into these ranking of the hires?
I'd love to.
Let's rank these hires.
Let's rank these hires. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing. We got a loaded one as we continue to talk it up and chop this shop. They love that loaded one, huh?
Yeah, I think it is just because you've hammered it in every time.
Certain things you do. Okay, there's certain things you become accustomed to on this network.
Right.
One of which is that right there.
Yep.
And it took me a while to understand that this needed to be done, that there has to be a sense of familiarity every time when they open it up. It's got to feel like, ooh, I know I'm here. I'm back in this mode where I'm listening to these guys. And I learned that if you go back and look through the channels, I'd say about midway through 2022, you start seeing me chop up the old NBR intro where I play the intro music and then I come in, welcome to NBR, the show where we find topics where I'll pass about podcast. Yeah, and then I was like, all right, this is a good little solid intro. So yeah, it just happens eventually, you know.
Things happen naturally.
It's supposed to, right? In content creation, they shouldn't feel forced. So yeah, just kind of like how you guys are here. I don't feel like I forced this. We hung out, we went on some road trips together, and I was like, I think y'all got some juice.
Thanks,
and then we
man.
figured it out. So there we go. Yeah, Falcons avoiding dogs like the plague. Rank the hires. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
I think we can all agree on number 1, right?
T-Rob?
Yeah.
That's what I put as number 1.
Yeah, like T-Rob was far and away the best. Like, that's an A+ hire. Especially when you lose a guy like Fran Brown.
I want to go first.
Okay.
Taking it right from you. I'm going 4-1, by the way. Okay. Oh, a little OLI first. Brooks Austin, potential analyst. How would you grade that hire?
Well, probably an F because I'd be out of a job. So.
That would be unfortunate for you. Yes. I'm just kidding. I wanted to put it in an OL just for shiggles. Number 4, Dante Williams. I think on our article this morning, I put a B+ on this grade. It was the lowest grade that I gave. And here's why. Everyone's going to point to the USC. Like, he came from USC. It's a terrible defense. They weren't really good at particularly anything. So you can't really point in one group and say, hey, that guy was doing a decent job. The whole collective was terrible. They were all just kind of bad. Blown coverages, busted coverages, missed tackles left and right, misalignments, busted assignments, all kinds of different things that make you a bad defensive football team. Now, granted, not all of that. I would even assume very little of that was directly tied to Dante Williams. But still a USC hire. It's not like they pulled this guy out of the Baltimore Ravens defensive analyst staff. You know what I mean? This is a guy who's coming from a program that historically did not do it well during his time there, okay? And I think he extended past Lincoln. I think he was there even during, what's his name, that's down at Georgia Southern.
Clay Helton.
Clay Helton. I think he was even there during the Clay Helton years to extend the back end of that one. So it just hasn't been great. Here's the other thing. Everyone points to Dante Williams' recruiting prowess. And I'm here to tell you, great recruiter. He has landed, we'll look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 5-stars in his recruitment process during his time. Now, a lot of these guys aren't defensive backs, so I can't really, discredit his inability to, develop these individuals. But, buddy, you look at this list. There ain't a whole lot of NFL football players that this guy has signed. Not a lot of hits on this list, right? It's Corey Foreman. That's a defensive end. I'm not going to give him the lack of credit or the minus on his report card for a defensive end's development. It wasn't great, right? Corey Foreman probably won't be an NFL football player. He might get drafted, but he won't be a high-end guy. Zachariah Branch, that one's going to be a hit. We all agree on that one. Justin Flo, Wolf.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Wolf. Everybody missed on that one.
Thought he was going to be a dude.
Everyone thought he was going to be a dude. Damani Jackson, still has a very good opportunity to be a dude. On to his second school. Yep. Looked okay as a freshman in limited playing time out there at USC. Still out to be determined. His highest rated corner after Damani Jackson is Dante Manning, who's going to his 5th year, I believe, at Oregon. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then names you've never heard of. Mykel Wright, Tyjon Lindsey. Zion Branch has started at USC and has played relatively well. We'll see what that develops into. But, guys, the list, and you saw it today, you can't find an NFL starter on that list.
So I guess my question, or maybe a little bit of a rebuttal to that, is how much do you think that is high-caliber defensive players not wanting to go play at USC? Like, that's maybe not a desirable landing spot. How much do you think that played a role in it maybe?
I think it played a little bit of a role, but how do you explain the ranking?
Yeah.
You just assume that the industry missed?
I mean, I think it's also like you get into a situation like USC. I feel like we can all agree that going over to USC versus playing at Georgia, you're going to get developed way more at Georgia.
Correct.
So you can also say, like, hey, this guy's going out and getting the elite 5-star names. He might not have the tools and the coaching staff around him to be able to develop them, where if you put him into Georgia and he is getting these 4- and 5-star guys, then where Georgia coaches like Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, T-Rob, who are elite coaches, can now develop them. I think that's kind of your, hey, this is why we went with this hire. Because, again, like we said yesterday, the emphasis is on recruiting.
Correct.
And he can recruit. Now, the development hasn't always paid off, but the recruiting is there.
And that's exactly what I wrote in the article today. It's like, okay, maybe he's not a great developer. how great of a developer does he have to be? Right. He's coaching next to Kirby Smart. He's coaching next to, Glenn Shumey. He's coaching next to Will Muschamp and T-Rob. Like, how good of a developer do you have to be if that's your room? Now, here's where I would counter that. A lot of your development as a college football player happens in individual periods, if we're being honest. A lot of your technical development, how you take steps, where your pads are supposed to be, how we go about playing our technique, a lot of that is coached up in individuals, which almost all of that will be handled by Dante Williams. So I put him 4. Number 3, I put James Coley. I don't have a negative thought here. I just think it's kind of higher. Safe, comfortable, gonna guaranteed to produce results. We talk about chicken and rice on this channel all the time. This is the chicken and rice of the hires right here. It's not going to be extremely flavorful. It's not going to be a 5-star dish, but you might land some 5 stars. But what it is going to be is really, really nutritious for your diet. It's going to be clean. You're not going to have to worry about a lot of back end blowout on this one. Blow up? Should I went blow up?
I don't even know.
I'm trying to help you, man, and just
I'm just talking ball.
Okay.
Back end blowout.
So
I don't know
South
if
Florida. Everybody talks about
been
South Florida ties, right?
Yeah.
I've been trying to get to like, what are the ties? Like, what do they do for you nowadays? Like, used to, I get it, right?
Yeah.
Used to, it was all about, hey, we need to figure out how to manipulate this money. Let's be honest about it, right? Before NIL, when it was the old bag man, what you had to figure out was, how do I get this money into the correct person's hands, and how do I get it down there? Not only that, who do I need to talk to broker these conversations? Nowadays, it's all out in the open. Who cares about the relationships? All you got to do is call. You know what I mean? All you got to do is call and say, what's your price? So I'm curious. Maybe it's just he fits into the area. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe his relationship building is much stronger in an area that's really, really tough to recruit in general and to fit in.
Yeah, and I think over time, like you said, you build up a reputation there to where it's, James Coley is this guy that really recruits the area well. He has a connection with this high school coach, this player. He recruited this player who then went to the NFL. Like, your reputation just grows and grows over time, which I think is why he's such a good recruiter there.
Put him number 3. Put Josh Crawford number 2. I think Josh Crawford is going to be one of the guys that's listed on the Kirby tree in like 5 years.
Yeah, I could see that.
No different than Buster. No different than what Todd's going to be, Todd Monken, that is. And the offensive tree needs to start growing, right? And it is now. Dale branched off and became a head football coach, but it's Pittman, it's Lanning, it's McGee, and it's Tucker, right? Those are all the coaches that have left for head coaching jobs. So it's 2 and 2 on both sides of the football. 2 offensive coaches, 2 defensive coaches.
I feel like there's one we're missing, but
I think that's it.
I think that's
that left for head coaching jobs.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I think this right here will be one of the next ones.
Yeah.
I talked about it in my article, and we talked about it yesterday. Greater Atlanta Christian, Colquitt, Valdosta, Lee, and then finished off at Jefferson. You got some connections in this here state.
Absolutely.
Ain't no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you got a co-OC title in your second year ever coaching football at Western Kentucky in college football. And by the way, you came down to Georgia Tech and got a co-offensive coordinating job your first year in Atlanta. I think this guy knows a little bit of something about football.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Sure sounds like it.
The only reason that I put Coley as 2 was just because I felt like the wide receiver room was in a little bit more need of a recruiting boost.
Yeah, big time.
So that's why I put Coley there, just because the connection to the Southeast. But I think 2 and 3 are very interchangeable.
I honestly put Coley at 2 because of the timing of the hire and because of what you were able to go get, considering the time span that you were just put in and the fact of middle of February, you were tasked with having to find a positions coach, and you were able to get one and steal one from another SEC competitor of yours in South Carolina and bring him onto your staff. And, like, getting James Coley during this, like, in February, I think alone, I think that's a tremendous hire. Then obviously the recruiting that you mentioned, I mean, you look at the list of names that he's been attached to, that's all fine and dandy, but I think that the timing of it really sold it for me as well.
Y'all know Brandon Bean, the general manager of the Buffalo Bills?
Sure. I do now.
Just nod. He was at the Combine today, and I think he was asked about the timing in which they gave up all the draft picks for Josh Allen. And he said that he told his draft room, basically, if this guy doesn't hit, I'm fired anyways. And if he does hit, No one gives a shit about how much I gave away for him. And it got me thinking, at what point is Georgia going to have to take that type of approach with their wide receiver room on the recruiting trail in NIL? At what point are they going to have to look at this room and find some 5-star and say, I don't care. I don't care what it takes, because if I don't land at least one of these guys, I might not ever.
I mean, I don't.
Do you ever reach that point?
I don't know.
Maybe you never do.
I don't know if you do. I mean, you won 2 national titles with the receiving core that you had, and I mean, like, there's some really great names on there, some talented players, but like, let's be honest, it wasn't world beaters. You didn't have many 5-stars. I mean, I think George Pickens was the only one who could even fit into the 5-star category, and he didn't play for much of the 2021 season at all. So I don't think you necessarily need to have 5-star receivers to win.
The only counterpoint I would make to that is you were a tight end-based football team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And in 2023, 2024, 2025, Darnell Washington ends up at Tennessee. He got wrapped up in all that McDonald's bags reporting.
Yep.
Guess what? It's legal now. He not coming to Georgia. He's probably going to end up at Tennessee in that situation.
Right.
So either way, you're still going to have to come up off of this at some point, particularly now. Like we talked about it last night. This no rules stuff does not help Georgia. Now, it may if they finally decide they're going to open up the bank, because I find it hard to believe that Georgia doesn't have old money or doesn't have the ability to spend like some of these schools do. They don't have Haslam oil money, but they got money here in this state that loves Georgia football. We all know this. But they have a head coach he's not Dabo Swinney, but he ain't Ryan Day. You know what I mean? Like, Ryan Day has made it very clear, I'm going to go out here and spend as much money as it takes to get this monkey off my back. Georgia don't have to do that right now. So their 2 national titles probably could have not come at a better time for a college football head coach who, rightfully so, ain't going to be out here bending to these negotiation tactics that we see right now on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like you said, it's the perfect timing for that, because you have that proof of concept now where it's like, we don't need to pay blah, 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 blah. Look how many first-round draft picks you put in. Look how many titles we're winning. You want to come here and be great and develop your career further, fine, do that. Or if you want to go get paid, go somewhere else. We don't need you. We'll just go to the next 5-star.
Yeah.
Or take a 3-star and develop into a Ladd McConkey or an A.D. Mitchell.
Maybe it's going to take an in-state 5-star. You know?
But I mean, there's like one of those every 3 classes, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, who was the last one besides Mike Matthews? J.D.
And
Hazelwood?
I don't even, like, Mike grew up in Georgia, but, like, Mike's a totally different story, in my opinion. He wasn't a Georgia kid. He wasn't a UGA kid.
Right.
You know? And they tried. They tried late down the stretch. I also think they were up in kind of deciding where Mike ranked on that kind of receiving board for them all the way up until his last time coming to campus in the summer, going into his senior year, where they're like, oh, shit, no, this guy turned into a dude. Yeah. We better push, that kind of deal. But maybe it's going to have to take a Travis Smith, you know, the kid out of Westlake. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's going to take a C.J. Wiley, the kid out of Milton, to remain in state, maybe take a pay cut, and say, I want to be a Georgia Bulldog. And I'm going to go try to win a national title, develop into a first-round draft pick, and then set precedents for the rest. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't think until there's some type of stabilization in terms of the NIL market, wide receiver and running back completely outpriced. Yeah. Completely overpriced.
Right.
Whereas quarterbacks, I have learned on the recruiting trail, are more apropos to take a pay cut in order to ensure that the players around them are better. Because it's really, really hard in college to just overcome, we don't have the better team today.
Yeah.
You know, so
right.
It's definitely a macro discussion. How'd you guys rank? T-Rob, number 1, as we said. It's just such a good hire from a continuity standpoint, and he's a guy. Like, he's top 3 defensive back coach in the country.
Yeah, I went T-Rob, Coley, Crawford, and Williams in that order.
Same exact order.
And y'all chose Coley over Crawford because the guarantee in recruiting success?
That, and then also the timing of it, like I mentioned, of when you got him and who you took him from.
And I feel like wide receiver is just a more position where you need to put more emphasis on recruiting at the moment. Like, running back is important. We've all talked about that, but it's not like the do or die position that it once was in college. Like, if you don't have an elite running back, that's not as big of an issue as if you don't have an elite receiver in your core. So I think that's kind of why I put the Coley higher.
It was a good question presented in the chat. They didn't present it this way. I'm going to present it this way. How much of a downgrade Brian McClendon, Dale McGee, James Coley, Josh Crawford?
Maybe a few, like maybe a step and a half, I'd say.
I would say a full level.
Yeah.
Went down a level. if there's 17 levels, you went from level 1 to level 2.
Okay, yeah. I'd say that's fair.
Maybe even level 3.
Yeah, I'd say a step and a half. That's what I would put it at. Just because, I mean, when you have a guy like Dell who's been around your program for so long, and he's had such an impact everywhere, every spot around the roster, not just his own roster spot. I mean, everything had Dell's name attached to it. Yeah. I mean, him alone makes you take a step back by himself.
Yeah, I think the Dell loss definitely hurts the most just because of the impact he had as far as the Southeast recruiting. But, I mean, as far as an X's and O's thing, like, does the drop-off really matter that much? Like, I mean, if James Coley and Williams are going to go in and recruit better players, does it matter that they're maybe not as football savvy or don't have as good of a grip on the system?
No. And
that's just where I struggle with it.
Like,
or Crawford, I mean.
Yeah, and both, by the way, I think they're overqualified for position coaching jobs. Like, if Josh Crawford wanted an OC job in mid-major football right now, he could probably get it. And same thing for Coley. If Coley wanted an OC job again, he could probably take it somewhere, and he at least has had one in his prior history. So there's definitely some reasons to believe that they're overqualified for even the positions that they currently hold at Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also kind of an idea that is the receiver position maybe not as important as it was 3 years ago. Like, you look at the 2020 rosters where it's like, or 2019 and 2020 where it's like you have to have 2 first-round NFL guys. Like, there's always that iconic Alabama where they had 4 first-round receivers. Like, those were the teams you were winning with. And then you look at the last 3 national champions. It's more 12 personnel, heavy, hit you in the mouth, beat you physically football teams that don't really have an elite receiver. I mean, Michigan didn't really. I mean, Roman Wilson, yeah, he's a good receiver.
He's a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I don't think he's a first-round dude. Like, Georgia didn't have a first-round dude unless Ladd McConkey really turns into this in the combine. So is the game of football kind of shifting away from this anyways?
If you have an excellent run game coordinator, like Michigan had for years, a really deep offensive line like Michigan had for years, good to serviceable tight ends like Michigan had for years, and then at Georgia's end, they had Brock Bowers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's so easy to sit here and say Georgia won 2 national titles without a great wide receiver. Did they? Did they? You know what I mean? Because Brock Bowers drew coverage like a goddamn great receiver.
They only had the best tight end in college football history. So, I mean, there's definitely a rebuttal to it.
And it wasn't like he was the best tight end in college football because he was on the end of the line of scrimmage, like, dominating the line. Like, he was split out. Like, he was drawing coverage from safeties, corners, linebackers. Like, he was a focal point on the outside. That might as well be a great slot. Like, they might as well have Malik Neighbors for 3 years. I know they used him totally different, but he drew coverage from defensive backs like that.
So maybe they'll get to create a new label of themselves at this position because, everybody wants to compare, say, like what Kirby Smart has done to the position over the years and how the lack of development or whatever you want to call it. But, I mean, from 2016 all the way until 2020, you were a run-based offense. You weren't really using your wide receivers like that. And then, like we just mentioned, from 2020 until this past season, you were very tight end-based because you had 2 really good tight ends on the same team for a while. And then you had Brock Bowers by himself. And now maybe you get to kind of reshape that identity and kind of really I shouldn't say reinvent yourself, but you get to kind of repropose yourself to all of these wide receivers and say, like, now this is kind of our identity.
And one of the talking points we had last offseason about Bobo being the hire is if you look through Bobo's history, his ability to kind of morph and change and do all these different things to accentuate his best talents, I think that honestly is one of Bobo's best features. And it's been the extension of his career as a coordinator. His ability to take the ingredients and maximize the dish has been very, very important through his longevity as an offensive coordinator. Yep. So, yeah, I think you're right there. Any more thoughts there on the hires?
No,
I think for all intensive purposes, it's intents and purposes, right? Not intensive purposes.
Intense, I would say.
Intents and purposes. For some reason, my CTE brain just goes intensive purposes.
Well, it sounds the same. So
yeah,
I thought
and it flows better.
You looking it up? I'm pretty sure it's with all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because intensive.
You just put a little really auctioneer in it. You just kind of put all the words together. Yeah.
We got 5.
No, it's intensive.
It's intensive?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Swag. Spring dates announced this past week at the University of Georgia. Let me pull up this email while you guys riff. Excited for spring practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime football is back, anytime you get a little taste of it.
It's a month of juice on the network and on the website. And
that's what I was about to say.
And we get to eat.
It's a premium.
The kids get to go to college.
Yeah. Before we really got to fasten down for the summer, really start digging in deep into the bag as far as content creation goes. I mean, yeah, anytime you can have football back in any sort of capacity, that's a win.
I feel like once we get past spring, we blink and summer's here and then fall camp's here. All right, so here are the –
no way, dude.
Maybe not for you.
Summer drags on, I feel like.
It won't anymore. We're going to get you – I'm going to try to get you guys out to L.A. this year for the Elite 11 and the opening, and then we'll come back and we'll do all the different stuff here. And then we'll go to SEC Media Day. July's going to do like that. June and July are going to blink. Y'all aren't even going to realize it.
Good.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, so here's the dates. It's going to start March 12th. We'll get media availability that day. Coach Smart and select players will be available at Buttsmeer on the first floor meeting room. And then it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, all the way through G-Day on April 13th. So it's a month of 3-a-days for these football players. And it'll be fun. Should be fun for those guys.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember about spring practice?
Hell. Spring football is the most intensive portion of your college football career. Like it's pins and needles the entire time because it's so hyper competitive because you have a full day off in between and there's no restrictions. Like in most fall camps, like because that's what it is, a spring camp for you. In fall camp, there's days where you might go back to back. You might go Monday, Tuesday, we're in pads, and then Wednesday you're in shells. And then Thursday you might be in shells, and then Friday you're back in shells, and then Saturday you're in full pads for a scrimmage. That's what fall camp feels like. Spring practice feels like scrimmages every day. I vividly remember, like, it's the first practice you're in helmets, the second practice you're in shells, the third practice you're in shells, and then the rest of the time you're in full pads. So say practice is 30 periods long. That's 2.5 hours, right? 5-minute periods times 30 is 2.5 hours. You go through a 30-period practice schedule in spring practice, I would venture to say 18 to 20 of those periods are what we would call competitive periods, where you're either in one-on-ones, you're either in half-line drill, you're either in inside run, or you're in team, going full 11-on-11. So you're basically every other day playing a full football game is what this feels like. And the pressure around it is that because you're competing for your job. Like, there is not – I don't think there's a human being in Athens right now with more pressure on him this spring than Lawson Lucky. Because Lawson Lucky's fighting a ghost right now. Lawson Lucky's fighting playing time against a guy who's not going to be here till July in Ben Urasek, right? The transfer from Stanford. He's not going to be here until the summer. And he's going to get here, and he's going to be a 6'5", 240-pound, 4'6" running NFL football player, according to Jim Nagy and all the NFL guys that we talk to, right? And he's, like I say, you're going to have to fight against a phantom ghost. You're going to have to win playing time against a guy you've never seen this spring. And that, to me, is terrifying if I were him.
Didn't mean to bring on the PTSD flashbacks for you.
You know, I mean, we got to skip one spring practice at shorter because mono hit. Mono just took out the whole university.
Y'all was kissing too much?
Hey, you know, me and my wife got it right after spring break. The spring break I met her.
Oh.
So, yeah. Mono, overrated, you know.
Overrated?
Overrated.
Like, it's not that, like you're saying, it's not that
mono
bad?
ain't shit.
Man, we had a kid in middle
Mono's
school.
just something they tell you got.
We had a kid in middle school that, like, went missing for, like, 3 months. And come to find out, he had mono. And when he came back to school, everybody was like, oh, my gosh, we completely forgot that you were even in our grade or classes or anything. Like, I don't know how long he was gone, but it was long enough for people to be like, whoa, forgot you were in our class.
Spring practice is hell. It absolutely is, at least in my experience, particularly on the D2 level, because in D2, you know, your scholarship resets that May. So in April, you're fighting for what you're going to get paid in August. You're basically going through an interview process to see how much of a raise you get or how much your scholarship gets cut that fall. And nowadays, in college, professional, in Division I Power 5 football, it's the same thing. It's just NIL packaging, right? If you're a 3 going into spring camp and you leave the starter, do you then therefore get a raise? Is that how that works nowadays? I don't know if that's how that works at Georgia, but I'm sure that's how that works at other places. You know, once you have a great spring, you get a pay raise.
That makes sense, I guess.
You would think so if you were a good agent, right?
Yeah.
Who are some guys that have an opportunity to really gain some ground and make a name for themselves this spring?
I kind of went with two broad answers, but I think they're two very legit answers. The first one I did is anybody in the wide receiver room. I mean, it's a massive spring for any of those guys. Outside of maybe like Dominic Lovett, we kind of all assume that he's going to be pretty much a mainstay in that wide receiver room rotation just because he was last year. Going into year 2, you got something to say?
Yeah, I went with one name in the wide receiver room because of what you're talking about.
Rod Thomas?
No, Dylan Bell.
Ah.
Yeah.
Dylan Bell has people coming to eat at the the table that he set plates at. That's what's going on right now. I was a freaking bar I wrote down and I just stumbled all over it. Let me start over. Dylan Bell has people coming to eat at the table he set.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. I like that.
That's what's going on right now. Bar. Thank you. Yeah, that's what's going on. He has developed. He has earned the right to be the primary guy here. And then, boom, in comes all these new guys. And by the way, these new guys going to have to be learning the playbook this spring. So this is an opportunity for Dylan Bell to really, like, stamp his corner. I'm the freaking guy.
Yeah, and that's why I said the whole entire wide receiver room, because you brought in a litany of guys, but there's only so many spots on the field, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's now in the spring is a great time for you to kind of already set that precedence of, I'm going to be one of these guys. I want to be a guy that's out there from first snap all the way to the very last snap. So anybody and everybody in that wide receiver room better become ready to
We got
earn
some smart
reps.
people in the chat. I don't know what an egg corn is, but apparently intensive purposes is an example of an egg corn, kind of like irregardless. Right over my head.
J School ain't taught me nothing about that. So
Nah, shout out to Chris Foster, our lone Tennessee fan, still in the chat.
Always
Surprised he
hanging
hasn't
around.
called me an idiot yet.
there's still time. There's still time.
Still time. Thanks a lot, Tennessee, for killing the NCAA. Where were we at?
I just wrapped up my
Okay.
thought about wide receivers.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have any cornerback in the room. I mean,
good call
because
there.
that position, we don't really know. We've gone into most every season of Georgia football knowing at least, hey, here's the one guy at corner. Who's going to be the guy opposite of him? I don't think there's a one true guy right now. So, I mean, you essentially have 2 spots open for grabs and like 6 or 7 guys battling for it.
Had Julian Humphrey and Daniel Harris doing this thing towards the end of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
If those 2 football players weren't good, you know what Kirby doesn't deal with? Kirby don't deal with the flippy floppies.
No.
You know what I mean? Kirby does not – if Julian Humphrey was not a future NFL football player, or at least they didn't think he was, Kirby Smart is not spending time during December's recruiting window re-recruiting Julian Humphrey, sending coaches to his house in Texas to have an in-home meeting. They don't do that unless they think dude is a dude.
Right.
So, yeah, I think you're right. There's somebody in that room that's got to step up. I got one for you. Daniel Calhoun was the name that during the 15 bowl practices, like, really, really popped. So much so that we honestly were, like, immediately wrong on my guys. And it's never happened that fast.
Yeah.
And it happened that fast, not including him and being a little bit lower on him. I think I had him ranked 4th in the class. He's got an opportunity to get real playing time based off the 15 practices. And here's the other one I got. I think Xavier Truss has an opportunity to really cement himself, and he needs to. Because if Monroe Freeling looks anything like we think he might be able to, man, you're going to leave spring practice really, really entrenched in a battle that I don't know if you're going to win come end of August. So I think Xavier's really got to put ground between him and guys like Monroe.
Yeah.
I went with the running back room, but it's anybody behind ETN on the depth chart because we all assume that he's going to be the number 1 guy. You don't bring him in if he's not going to be your number 1 guy. But who's going to be that number 2 spot? I think we think that Branson Robinson will get into that when he is fully healthy and they kind of ease his way into that. But for the time being, for the time of spring and for maybe the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the college football season, there's a lot of totes to be had alongside ETN, and that's going to be a battle between Andrew Paul and Roderick Robinson and any of the freshmen that want to come in there and get into the mix. So I think that it's a big opportunity for any of those guys to really insert their name.
Yeah.
No love for the moolah. That's just sad right there.
Cash.
Yeah, no love for the money.
Cash gets love.
For that exact reason, I put Rob as
Yeah.
because I mean that number 2 spot's really.
Are we
open for-
channel Rod Robinson?
We might be.
I don't know of anybody who's out here stamping Rod Robinson as like a guy or someone who we think might be a guy.
I mean, he could be.
Yeah. I think he is. I think he's going to be.
So, yeah, I think Rob could absolutely cement himself as, like, I'm the number 2 guy. It's going to be very interesting to see how that running back room plays out, though, because, I mean, you're essentially, like, come midseason, you're going to have 4 very, very talented running backs that are in the spot that's, like, you could make an argument for any of them to be running back 1, I think. So
I think it's make or break spring for a guy like Ja'Cory Thomas.
Yeah.
Whoever the second-string star is, this is a huge, huge spring for you this year because – I mean, there's nothing left after Jonell Aguero. I mean, it's just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing there. So a big, big spring for whoever can figure out, like, I'm playable here, Coach.
Right.
I'm playable. I'm not only a serviceable backup. I'm playable. I'm going to be able to rotate because they historically they like to play 2 guys at that position. They like to rotate based off the matchup. Right. It's years where we might be playing Mark Webb this week. We might be playing William Poole this week. We might be playing Tyreek Stevenson this week. At their years at their best at that position, they have a variety of them.
What do you think the value of a guy like Dan Jackson is for this spring? Like, what can Dan Jackson do to kind of, like, cement, like, hey, I'm the 2 guy at the star position? Or, like, is there a world where Dan Jackson earns a starting role as a star?
No, I don't think so. Too vulnerable in pass coverage. Tight hips. As much as we talk about Dan being a really, really fast football player, you want to see him get exposed. Go watch the Jameson Williams clips of them just spinning him like a top because he can't pedal, turn, and run, right? All of Dan Jackson's plays, think about all of them. They're all downhill or they're all I ran to that spot, I beat him there. Even the interception of Keely Ringo, right? Dan Jackson's hauling ass in a straight line and takes that hit to ultimately lead on to that touchdown. So I think Dan's best ability is – see ball, run to that spot. It's not a reactive measure, which is what the nickel position is.
I mean, that's what he did in the South Carolina interception. Was basically just a horizontal break on that big, or was it a Dover?
I think so.
Or was it a deep hitch? I can't remember. But yeah, the other guy I have is London Humphreys. I think that Z position has his name written all over. He's got to go earn it, and it's also something that coming in, not being a guy who's been in the system, you're the first-year guy, you're transferring in. The wide receiver room is kind of a big, wide open question mark right now. So I think London Humphreys could really do himself a favor this spring practice.
Any more?
That was it for me.
Big spring for Raylan Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? But, like, it's one of those things. It's almost like what do you call it, like a glass ceiling. There's only so much you can do here in this room because of what the room is, right?
Yeah.
Smile's still there. And I wonder how much Smile's going to be taking reps this spring. Coming off of a foot injury last year, play with a big-time foot injury to close the season last year.
Last time I saw him, he's still in a boot.
Yeah, but again, even if he wasn't, how many more reps to Smile Mondon need in practice?
Good point.
You know what I mean? Like, let the young guys get it. Let them figure it out. Troy Bowles needs a lot of reps this spring. There's a lot of young linebackers that need burn.
Did he miss last spring too?
Smile?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. With I think it was a shoulder injury last spring.
Yeah, I think he tore his labrum.
Yeah.
So,
which is a very, very common injury
for sure.
For linebackers.
I've got a question, though. How important is this spring for a guy like Gunnar Stockton, where your stock for next year is kind of on the line? Because, I mean, like, people are very high on Pug.
Yeah.
And then
for reasons.
And then 2025 comes around, you might flip the number 1 quarterback. So,
does he have firm hold, like guaranteed you're the 2? Because if
so,
the spring's not that important. It's the fall, what he does as a 2.
Gunner's situation does not feel like Carson's did when Stetson was in his last year. Like, it felt like it was obvious, blatant, clear as day that when Stetson Bennett leaves this football team, it is Carson Beck's football team. I mean, he was told that by his coaching staff multiple times of, like, it's your team now. It's your show. Let's go. I don't know.
We talked about it. As soon as Kirby got before he even got the Gatorade dumped on him after TCU, he was shaking Carson's hand.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, it's your show next.
I don't know if Gunner's in that situation. So, I mean, I think that they're definitely molding him into that, and they, by all purposes, want him to be that by the end of this spring, and they want him to kind of start to conceal himself into that position. But I don't know. It definitely doesn't feel as solidified like it did with Beck.
This is what I'll say. I think Gunnar Stockton is your clear and cut QB2 this year just because he's the older guy in the room. Yeah. I don't know if Gunnar Stockton is your clear and cut QB1 next year.
Or even in January.
Yeah.
I mean, the quarterback battle for 2025 starts in late December this year. in bowl practices. They will begin to figure out, all right, where are we at with these two guys? And I think that's why it's very important for Gunner to play well this spring, so they know, like, guaranteed he's our 2, so he can get those developmental reps while, you know, Pug's down there still figuring out the speed of the game on practice squad, because that's the line of demarcation. Once you get into that third-string quarterback, like, you're not even involved really in game planning. They might bring you in on Monday when they do the install, but Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you're practicing with the scout team, giving those guys a look. You're not actually getting the reps of what your offense is. So it's hard. It's very similar to what we talked about with Brock Vandagriff. I don't think Vandagriff ever had a chance to, like, really compete with an Evil 11 playing field. By the time he was up for competition, the other guy had been the 2 for 18 months. It's like, golly, I'm fighting from way back here, where it's very different with Gunner, where he's actually got a chance to win the 2 job.
Made me think about how, like, guys that play on scout team, I've heard them talk about how oftentimes if you're the scout team quarterback, Kirby Smart will get onto you for not messing up enough, because you're trying to give the defense a good look. Like, you have to make mistakes for them to be able to get a good look defensively and allow them to kind of get fully prepared for the game. So you can't go on scout team just dicing them up and doing your thing. You kind of have to play to the defense in a sense. So it's not like, I don't know if it would be like great development field.
It's a combination of both. My freshman roommate was a scout team quarterback, and he would come home every single day. He's like, I tore their ass up. And I'm like, bro, I know, but you came to the huddle, and I didn't play scout team, so I didn't know for a fact. Never once in college, actually. Never once was a scout team guy. Shout out. But he would come home and be like, man, I shredded him today. I was like, bro, the coach held up the card and told you they were in quarters, and you threw the 10-yard hitch on the sideline. Like, I hope you're tearing it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, shit, he's giving you the answers, bro. Like, I hope you're out here tearing it up. That's the way it feels sometimes, and then there's sometimes like you're talking about where it's like, hey, we kind of want you to fail today because we need some confidence.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could definitely see both there. But, yeah, it's a huge spring for Gunner from a standpoint of it doesn't – when one dude's really, really traitsy, like Pug is, it doesn't take long for people to start talking about that guy. And that's the worst thing that can happen for you as the 2 when people are talking about the 3. No different than if you're the starter and people are talking about the 2. Never good for you. Any other names, guys? I mean, Arian Smith got to have a big spring.
Yeah.
Anthony Evans would have fit in this, but he's just taking it off. Is he going to practice, or is he going to keep running track?
I don't know how that works.
I got to figure that out. But we talked about it about a month ago about Anthony deciding he's going to run track. We think it's a terrible football decision for him. It's great that you have the opportunity to run. By the way, he's an Olympic caliber track runner. I think he was a 10.3 guy in high school. And I don't know what he's running now, but if he's running now on that team, you have to assume he's sub 10.3.
Oh, dude, they're
a good track team, aren't they?
Very, very good track team.
Very good track team.
So you got to be able to move. So we assume he's going to run really well this year. But man, he needed to be at spring practice with all these newcomers. He needed to be at spring practice. I think
no doubt.
It's invaluable. It's why I've always called Fugazi on the whole idea of 2-sport athletes. Like, great football coaches don't want you to do this. Kirby might have told him it's all good. I guarantee if you set Kirby down in a room by himself and said, hey, what do you think about your receiver that you needed to have a great year this year, running track this spring? Probably wouldn't be too happy about it, I would imagine. Let's do this Sirianni sound before we actually talk about who the best athlete is in Athens right now. This is Nick Sirianni was asked about drafting Georgia players and why he chooses to do so, what he's found in connectivity with all 5 guys he's drafted in the last 2 years. This comes courtesy of Zach Klein of Channel 2 here in Atlanta.
Right, toughness. Obviously, the guys that we've drafted and have on our team from Georgia are highly talented. Right, we have 2 first-round guys in Jordan and in Jalen, another first-round guy in Nolan. We got a third-round guy in Nakobe, a 4th-round guy in Keeley. So they're tough, they're physical, they know how to win. And on top of that, they're really good football players. And so we look forward to continuing to develop those guys. And so, you look at it from afar and say, hey, these guys know how to work. These guys know how to practice. I think that's and these guys are tough. I think that's anytime you can say that about another coach, like hopefully you understand that's a high praise that I have for Coach Smart and what he's done at that program. And obviously grateful for that because we have some of those really good players on our team.
All right, first and foremost, that's a faded black tee that he is wearing at the podium at the NFL Combine. As an NFL head football coach, that look like he ain't shaved in a couple of days either.
Looks like he goes to great clips.
Yeah. What's the dress code in Indy? Why am I getting shit on all the time for my dress code when people can show up like this as a guy who makes $7 million a year? But he can show up looking like that after the season he just had, on the verge of a hot seat. But it can show up looking like that. But I get shit on for not having pants.
I think your answer is in the question.
Yeah.
He makes $7 million.
$7 million
That's
a
fair.
year. He's the head coach.
He's fair. He's a 1%er.
Yeah.
You know, still hanging out in this 2% life. You know, still hanging out. It's not bad. It's not bad living down here. But you know, I'm gonna be dressed to the sevens, not to the nines.
Really? You are?
I'm gonna be dressed to the sevens up in Indy this year.
What? I don't believe that.
Wait until you see SEC Media Days.
He's scheming up
He's already
outfits
scheming.
for July.
That boy
July.
cooking. Hey, one thing I told my mom about this. I told my stepmom about this as well. You know, Dad worked a lot growing up. You know, passed around between both houses quite a bit growing up. The one constant in both homes was the female presence, particularly my mom, so I'm a single mom and all. One thing about being raised like that, you're going to know how to dress. There ain't no doubt. Like, you're going to know what matches. You're going to know what's not going well. You're going to be a little bit feminine. You're going to definitely put hair product in your hair the rest of your life. You're going to prioritize haircuts. You're going to do all these things because, you know, it was made important to you.
Not hating the Stees, but just
Thank you. You know, I feel like you're copping the Stees.
I had to do something when I was going to be on camera every day. I got flamed enough one trip, and I was like, that's it. I can't do that every time now.
Yeah, what did he flame you for?
Oh, dude, the first night that we were hanging out in Texas, he was
I
like,
flamed her for basic Nike tees.
he was like,
That's what I did.
this is what you're wearing tonight. And I was like, this is all I brought.
We were going out to a bar, and Mans put the khaki shorts on with the basic Nike tee that he bought from the outlet, and some Nike tee.
Like
tennis
what?
shoes
Like
on.
a graphic
No,
tee or like a
like straight blue tee with the one white Nike check in the middle.
Yep.
That said Nike underneath.
Hey, if you can pull it off, bro, you can pull it off.
Hey, you know what? 6'6", you can kind of do what you want. But we had to update the Stees. And hey, look, here we are. You know? Done made it, baby. Where were we at?
We're talking Nick Sirianni.
Oh, yeah. Talked about drafting Georgia players. Why did
Yes.
he do it? The thing other than the faded black T-shirt with the one Nike check in the middle, the thing that stood out the most to me was his talking about the professional approach and the knowing how to practice portion, right? And we've heard Kirby talk about this for years. In the NFL, they just don't practice, right? They don't practice at the rate and the consistency and the level of intensity that they do in college. So if you're going to bank on going to the NFL and becoming a developmental product, like that's just not it. It doesn't happen like that very often for you because there's just not the level of individual coaching. There's not the level of technical appliances every single day. It's more of we're working to knock the cobwebs off during the week. We're putting in the game plan. We're resting everybody's body. We're going to go play on Sundays as professionals. So if you're going into the NFL and you have to learn how to take care of your body yourself or learn how to handle your practice habits or learn how to get better, then you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. So when it comes to drafting Georgia players, they know not only am I getting an extremely talented football player, like he mentioned, you know, a lot of these guys are first-round draft picks. He talked about that, right? Like Jordan, first-round draft pick. Jalen, first-round draft pick. Nolan, first-round draft pick. You know these guys are immensely talented. But the other aspect of knowing that they know how to conduct themselves, that's invaluable for a guy who's spending millions on these young men.
I mean, you hear time and time again, or I shouldn't say time and time again, but there's been multiple coaches in the league that have mentioned, like, those boys at Georgia, not only are they talented, but Kirby Smart gets them ready for the league. Like, when we get them, there's no having to go through this process of, like, all right, this is kind of how the operation works. Like, you need to be here on time at these moments or on these days or whatnot. Like, these guys are ready to come into the league and just full on go.
There's been one that wasn't and currently isn't. He plays for the Steelers. What do you got?
Oh, that was way too obvious.
Oh, man, everyone knows. I mean, let's be honest, guys. Everyone knows. George Pickens, not here for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He ain't going to show up late and catch 10 balls today. That's what he going to do.
And cuss you out,
anything on
maybe.
this?
But, I mean, it is obvious, like we talked about it earlier. The proof of concept is that Philadelphia drafts a lot of Georgia players. The Steelers draft a lot of Georgia players. The Giants have even drafted a lot of Georgia players.
Yeah.
The Packers. So, I mean, there's a lot of these organizations that kind of go back to the well when it comes to drafting Georgia players. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that you said, like the way they conduct themselves, the way that Georgia runs their organization. It's like you've seen so many guys that their rookie years, former Georgia players, go like, oh, my God, the NFL is so much easier just because I have more time. We're not practicing every day. It's not like Kirby Smart's trying to kill us. So it is interesting to see that.
Chat's talking about, I think they're fearful of the shorts being too short. Like, I haven't been. No one's charged me with those.
There's
yet.
only two people in this world that I know that get hate on for wearing shorts, and it's you and Tate Ratledge. You are the only two people that I know that
they are too short.
If you were
Tate's are like 3 inch NCs.
Yeah.
Dude. They're nuts.
his are
a little bit too much.
for sure.
Especially on a 6'7".
Yeah, 5 inches is about as
With
low
tree
as you
trunks.
I'm
can
just
attached.
trying to show a little quad peak. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that touches my knees nowadays, I'm like, ooh, too long.
Yeah.
Ooh, I feel like I'm in the 90s.
Oh,
Get
man,
these
yeah.
off of me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Adam Sandler shorts.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know what? I was opposed to it a couple summers ago. I was like, man, these shorts getting too short for me, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first time I put them on, I was like, hey, I'm here for this.
Basketball player in me won't let him go below there.
Yeah, nah.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. Georgia has a new athlete that is on track to maybe be the best to ever play.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have much left of a resume to run it down.
No.
But Charlie Condon is a damn dude, boys. Oh, my God. This might be the best athlete we've seen at his specific sport. Like, he is better at what he does than anybody else is at what they do.
Some say he looks like me swinging a baseball bat.
You got one of these?
No, but I'm 6'6", 215,
Yeah.
and he's 6'6", 215.
I think he is a little bit different of a
Oh,
215.
no doubt.
Slightly?
Yeah. He's got the mass in all the right places that I definitely did
Hey,
not.
yo.
That one wasn't even bad. But
I was just trying to fit in,
I'm
man.
still
That's
getting
all. I was just trying to fit in,
those
bro.
back blown out from 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
Charlie
Jeez.
Condon ripping the cover off the baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, in 63 games. Okay, he's played 63 games at the University of Georgia. He is currently in his career batting .416, 28 home runs, 74 RBIs.
It's pretty good.
He's got 11 more RBIs than he does games played.
It's pretty good.
That's
And-
pretty damn good.
And you can pretty much plug him at any position on the corners and in the outfield, and he's going to play great defense for you, too. I mean, he had a web gym playing third base the other day. So, like, you can play him anywhere, essentially.
Is anybody better right now at Georgia?
Right
Is
now.
Malachi and Carson is the only one I would even put in
I
the
mean, that
discussion.
guy that just broke the world record for the 400 has an argument.
Not
Okay,
bad.
yeah.
Not a bad shot.
Really good athlete. I would say if Carson Beck is first overall pick, then Carson Beck has the edge. But, I mean, Charlie Condon has top 5 MLB draft pick this next year all over.
You guys are my Georgia historians. I don't know how well it does in the baseball arc, but this is already the best Georgia baseball player ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
obviously, like, Cole Wilcox and Emerson Hancock, first-round
already
draft
a-
pick.
yeah, already
Those
a
two
pro.
guys obviously were very, very talented baseball players, but there isn't exactly, like, a lengthy list of
Gordon
them.
Beckham.
Yeah, he's one of them. Walsh plays for the Angels, or did play for the Angels. I believe he went to Georgia as well, first baseman.
The lefty, Alex Wood. He's a
Oh,
Georgia
yeah.
Bulldog.
Played with the Braves for a little bit.
Yeah.
He was really solid for a while.
The Dodger.
He was a nice little lefty.
Yeah. But that's about it. It's not a long list.
No, there's not a very long list of, like, MLB Georgia baseball
And you were
players.
looking it up before the show. Condon's projected to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he's projected by MLB.com to go 3rd overall to the Colorado Rockies. And get this, this is all they have for his name underneath his draft profile. It just says really. It basically says like really good, talented baseball player. You remember Matt Holliday? It's
Yeah.
this good.
We have some details from a source who frequently flies on private jets that was watching our show. For a proper PJ that will fly from the East Coast to the West Coast, you're looking at about $120,000 round trip.
Completely doable.
Sounds about right. That's nuts. I ain't got that kind of money. I'm never going to have that kind of money. Be out here living the PJ life. That's nuts.
Yeah, like, I mean,
A man
I know a
can
guy.
dream.
Don't worry.
You know a guy?
Yeah, I know a guy.
Oh, you do know a pilot.
I do know a guy.
First ever sub. Shouts out to him.
Yep.
It's a good man.
Too bad he never watches.
Yeah, it's just never, ever.
I got a buddy who owns a Cessna.
What's that?
The little planes.
They're just like the little tiny planes,
like
a
rubber
5-seater maybe.
planes?
Yeah, like prop planes.
Yeah, I think all planes are rubber tired, but you get what I'm saying.
Literally describes every single
That
plane.
describes every plane.
You got one of those rubber tire cars?
The cars.
You
with
got one of
tires.
them things with propellers on it.
No, I mean not all planes have propellers. Some have jets.
Oh, that's why they're called jets.
Jet propulsion.
There you go.
Aren't those just a bunch of propellers in there moving around?
In a way, yes, you could make that
Kinda.
argument.
Like thousands of propellers.
I'm not a plane expert, but
Yeah, don't quote me on this. But, all right, yeah, Gordon Beckham was drafted 8th overall. White Sox?
He was with the White Sox for a while. I
White
think
Sox.
he bounced around a little bit.
Anything else for tonight?
No.
no.
Are we going to do a show from Indy? Let's make a decision right now.
I'm down.
You're down?
Would we have like mics and stuff, or would it just be you and me sitting in front of a laptop?
So we can bring the lavs. We can hook us both up with the lavs.
Let's do it.
And connect that into the Type-C port on my laptop and do it straight from the stadium.
Let's do it.
You want to do that?
Put a poll out and ask the people.
I think I already know what they're going to do. They're going to say yes. They whore us out, man. They want us all that they can get us.
Yeah, let 'em.
They don't always watch it, but they demand it.
Sometimes it's nice to feel wanted.
Yeah, it is. And here's how I know this. Every time I'm like, hey, should I release this film study at this time or should I release it later on in the evening? Everyone's like, release it now. Or at least the people I ask. And then nobody shows up and watches it. You know, should have put it at the evening like I wanted to.
Hey, I'll be watching.
That a boy.
Yes.
Hey, tune in. We'll be live from Indianapolis probably sometime Thursday. Love you. See you. Bye.